ancient civilizations were actually planning their life based on life force. We somehow along the line forgot the importance of life force. And it's automatic with the male aspect increasing and closing the door to the female, you're automatically closing the door to the perception and wisdom of life force.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. This show is about helping you to be healthy and fit in mind, body, and spirit, as well as harmonize your masculine and feminine energy, tap into your intuition, your true source of power, and awaken your authentic self. My friend, I am so thrilled to share with you today's guest, Dr. Ibraham Karim. Yes, him. This man has invented a new science, and let me tell you, it's taken the world by storm. It has changed my life. Did I emphasize that enough? I am actually an advanced practitioner. I've been studying for years now and practicing it, applying the principles of this amazing science. It's like the other side of a coin. You know, the science that we know in materialism and, the idea of Newtonian physics and cause and effect and the material world. And if you can't see it, touch it, taste it, or measure it, it doesn't exist. But if you are subscribing to my show, you probably believe, there's something else going on in life. What about the subtle energies? What about traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda and all these different ancient practices of thousands of years old, like the meridian system and the energy of the heart and our feelings and all the millions of other galaxies in the world and dark matter? And what about all those energies? And, even something like if something upsets you and how it affects your body, right? Like you lose your appetite, or maybe you eat more, or you get sick to your stomach because of your thoughts. These are all subtle energies that are very, very, very real. And what I love about biogeometry is they go there. This is about a system of sharing with people how shape and forms and numbers and colors and, of course, sounds, all these things affect everything else. They're just as real as, the chair I'm sitting on or eating an organic steak or something. It's just as real, just as impactful, and just as important for us to consider in our everyday lives. This is why I love this so much, because I'm all about the holistic big picture, the lifestyle. We've got to consider all these things that are very significant factors that are indeed affecting the quality of our lives. So I can't tell you how honored I am to have Dr. Karim, the founder of biogeometry, on this show. Let me just tell you a side note. I really think he's a reincarnated pharaoh from Egypt. He's Egyptian. This science has been 3 decades in the practice. And again, I have it all over my home. By the way, if you want to see how I use it and stuff, check out my social media. I'm constantly posting the application because they've produced these tools that you can use to help bring. And what is it anyway? Okay, so it talks about bringing harmonizing energy into your life, the centering harmonistic energy of the life force, the divine spirit, the creator, the creative spark, whatever it may be, which happens to be, by the way, where the male and the female, the yin and yang meet. It's that sacred union of that spot. And that's what this show is about, right? So, wow, how honored I was to have Dr. Karim on the show. Like I said, he's the founder. And by the way, this is part 1 of part 2. Because like you, by the way, too, this is a very deep show. So let me just tell you from the get-go. And he's got an accent. He's in Egypt. We actually had 3 different recording times. That's a long story. This show almost didn't happen, but I'm so grateful to bring it to you. So this is a very deep show, okay? Unlike any other shows, you're really going to have to focus and put your thinking hat on. I definitely recommend you listen to it again and remember to look for part 2 because Dr. Karim talks to us about the origins of life force, the origins, okay? And he talks about the origins of male and female energy. And I guarantee you it's going to be like you never heard it before. Because if we don't start at the foundation of really getting the concept of what we're even talking about, how are we going to know how to balance it and harmonize it, right? So he goes there, and I think it's just fascinating. And again, I guarantee you've never heard it before. We also he talks about time perception and how, in fact, our existence is only about 2% of what was really out there. How there's actually 2 souls in our beings, in our bodies. We talk about reincarnation, and he clears up some misconceptions about how we think about it. Fascinating. And he tells us about why it's so important that we acknowledge the feminine aspects in life now, and how men and women are different in their right and left brain wiring. We're actually biologically different. We also talk about how the womb and the water in particular in the womb is actually a sacred power spot. So girls, don't give it away, okay? My God, your body is a vessel of the Creator. It is a vessel of the divine. In fact, the ancient societies used to use or view sex as a pilgrimage to higher dimensions. The female was the doorway of the perception of the whole universe, and how men and women lived in harmony and respect because they needed each other to access the divine. That's what it's all about, right? So finally, we talk about Dr. Karim's concept of excellence in action and how he believes that's really the solution to get us out of any kind of jam, both internally or externally. So remember, look for part 2. Put on your thinking cap for this one. You're going to love it. Check out the resources. All that stuff's on my website. And if you want to save a couple bucks, apply my coupon code Amy Fournier, all caps, at checkout. And you'll save, I think it's like 8%. But you know, it adds up, okay? Again, look at my social media to see how I use this stuff all the time. And please check it out for yourself. I can't emphasize enough how much it has changed my life. I'm a believer. Both feet in, baby. All right, let's now join Dr. Ibraham Karim. And welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. Today, my guest is Dr. Ibrahim Karim of BioGeometry. Welcome, Dr. Karim.
Hello, Amy. I'm very happy to be with you today in the show. Thanks for inviting me. And I hope we have great moments together.
Oh my goodness. I'm, as I said in the introduction, I am just beyond giddy and speechless and grateful to have you on the show today and share you with my audience. I want to get right to it. I don't really want to say much. I just kind of want to give you the microphone and share all your amazing wisdom. Of course, I have 4,000 questions, but let's go ahead and get started with what you just like to say with a little synopsis of what you want the audience to know about biogeometry, and we'll let you take it from there.
Well, I'll make it simple because biogeometry is a label that I coined. I put the word together about 50 years ago, and it has to do with geometry. Geometry is already there. Now, what is geometry? It means geo, means the earth. Metry means measurement. So geometry means measurement of the earth. And in ancient Egypt, one of the names that was given to the land of ancient Egypt was the surveyed land, because every year you had the Nile flooding the green areas, putting the silt, covering it, giving it new life. And after the flood recedes, you had to redraw all the borders of all the plots between the people. And you had to do that very precisely. So Egypt was a sort of a surveyed, a measured land. And from that came the word of geometry, measuring the earth. Now, in biogeometry, I added the word bio to metry. So what is bio? Bio is life force. So life force, measurement of the earth. So instead of physical, quantitative measurement of the earth, we are now concerned with sort of the measurement of the life force, a qualitative measurement of the life force of the earth, and how this measurement transforms the earth in our worldview into a living being that we are interacting with, that we live within the earth, not upon the earth, because the atmosphere is part of the earth. So we are actually living inside the body of the earth. So geometry means we are measuring the life force in which we are immersed. And from this measurement of life force, we will go to a definition of this word, because everybody speaks about life force. It has many names. Some people call it chi, some people call it prana, some people, many, you can call it many, many names, but nobody really knows what it really is. So in order to understand what life force really is, let me take you to the beginning of creation, the creation of life force. So we have to go before creation, that means before duality. Before duality, that means a state of nothingness that contains everything in this nothingness. So it's a state of zero. Zero means nothing, but this nothing somehow holds in its depth the potential of infinity. Then this emotion starts in this zero state, where zero and infinity emerge as two aspects, but are actually equal in the beginning. Zero is equal to infinity. So when zero is equal to infinity, it's a state that the mind cannot comprehend yet, because everything is equal to its opposite. If you say, does divinity exist? It's only half the truth, because zero says nothing, doesn't exist. So where is divinity? It's exist, non-exist, in one word. So our brains can't comprehend something that holds the two opposites at its core. Now, from this potential energetic state emerges let's say, emerges everything that we need to create duality. Now, what is included in this state that in order to create duality? The first thing that is in order to create duality, so the first thing is we have to have a sort of the law of time, something that governs the creation of time. It's not time yet, it's not time, but it is the law that governs time. Because if you create anything without a law, it's a haphazard creation. You have to have, with your creations, you have to have laws that govern those things. So you have the law of time, And then you have the emergence of consciousness and time, consciousness, and the power to produce and control motion. Control it and harmonize it at the same time. So there must be a power that control, that means this power has a wisdom. So it's not only consciousness, but you have the law of wisdom. The law of wisdom means the law of ultimate balance. So all those things and much more are part of the components of life force. So life force here is, you can think of it in many of its aspects. If you're thinking of it as consciousness, you can call it the universal mind. See, it's one aspect of life force. So imagine this life force is sometimes called by the ancients, it's called the primordial fog or primordial ocean or something like that. It's the potential of duality. So in this life force where you have the potential of duality, we can look for everything that we want in the composition of this life force. So imagine the law of time starts producing a pulse. So pulse means creation of duality. If you throw a stone in water, you get ripples up and down. So the first pulse is a result of the law of time controlling the pulse, because a pulse needs to be controlled. If you throw a stone in water, you get ripples that go to infinity and then they dissipate. But here, the law of time produces a pulse, ripples that go out, and before they dissipate, they're pulled in again. That's the definition of a pulse, an outward and an inner movement. And so you get this pulse, something pulsates like that. The original pulse is governed from the center, but this center is not on the same dimension as the pulse. The center is on a higher dimension. The center comes from the zero infinity state, because a center, it has no coordinates. It's not, a center is not in the world of duality. It's before duality, but it governs duality. So now we have a center and a pulse. Now imagine this pulse to be like a spring coiling outwards. That's the outward phase of the pulse, and another spring coiling inwards, pulling it back in. So let's say you have the blue spring coiling outwards and the red spring pulling it back in. And that would be one pulse. Now, imagine billions and billions and zillions of pulses happening very quickly at the same time. And each one is a split second, but all happening at the same time. They give you the essence of a stable background. Although it's a highly pulsating, energetic background, but it appears to us as a stable background. But it is highly, highly energetic because it's made of pulses. And the pulses have, the two springs have a motion outside and the motion pulling inside. That means there's a continuous energetic spiral flow that goes in both directions inside each pulse. That means what seems like a stable background is a pulsating background that has spiraling effects. Now, let's go into the spiraling effect. You get the pulse, pulsates in outwards. It has 8 spirals that expand, and then the inner coil goes back through those 8 levels to the center. Now, in between, on each level, between each level, they cross, so there's an interaction, 8 times interaction between both. Now, the outward direction of the pulse, the outward coil, is the archetype of all mental processes, archetype of all radiation processes. So anything that has to do with radiation, with an outward movement, is a result of this blue coil moving outwards. So the movement outwards is more of an expansion into the background, an expansion, and the sort of an analytical expansion, because it has consciousness and mind in it. So while expanding, it is at the same time sort of interacting with the radiation aspect with consciousness. So consciousness in an outward flow gives you a sort of the archetype of mental energy and all other radiation energies. Now, the other coil, the red one, pulls you inside. So while the outer one, the consciousness here is interacting with diversity of the outside movement, because it's diversity, the inward movement, the red coil pulling you inside, that's the prototype of all attraction forces. Attraction forces could be gravity, could be anything, could be love, could be everything. It's the attraction forces of, so this coil is going to the center. So consciousness in a coil going to the center is different than consciousness in a coil going outwards. Outwards, you have consciousness in mental activity related to diversity. The inward movement, it's consciousness related to a holistic perception, because moving towards a center of light, it's a holistic movement. It's not a diversifying. It's something you're going into the center of light. So you see, it's a holistic thing. Now, the outgoing force is also archetypal for left brain activity. And the ingoing force is archetypal for right brain activity. Archetypal means qualitative in a way. It's a qualitative thing. Now, this movement, inward movement, is the emotional energy that's moving inwards. So emotional energy is part of the force of attraction. It falls into that category. Mental energy falls into the category of forces of expansion, of outward expansion. And if we look at that, then we can see the origin of what we call female energy is in the attractive forces going towards the center. And of what we call male energy is the forces moving outside, radiating outside. So female energy, in a way, is going towards the holistic aspect of the inner light, because it is striving all the way back into the light. So if we are saying, let's take this into the human brain now. Imagine the cavemen, first humanity on Earth. They were more right brain centered. So they were moving with their unconscious mind, with the subconscious mind. And this was because the left brain was still, hadn't found a lot of outward experiences to develop. So in the beginning, it was a very weak development of that left brain. But the main thing was in the right brain. Just, it's exactly the same way that an animal behaves. An animal lives in the right brain. Living in the right brain means the animal is not conscious of the divine unity pulling him inwards, that is pulling him towards the center. Because it's a right brain thing, it's an emotional motion. The animal is not conscious of it. Why is he not conscious of the totality of creation? Because he feels he is part of that unity. You know, when you are part of something, you are not conscious of it. You interact according to its laws without being conscious of it because you're part of it.
It's like
if
the fish being in water and not knowing.
Yes, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you were outside looking at the unity, you would say, okay, I see the universal unity. But if you're in it, you are part of the universal unity. So every motion you do, every sound you make is actually part of the creative process of the earth itself. So when an animal makes a sound, when a bird makes a sound, when it makes a movement, all those movements are part of the energetic constitution of the earth being, because they are not done consciously. They are actually sort of the human being here is a spokesman of universal unity of the earth. Now, when you live in this universal unity and you express it in your art, how will you express being inside a universal unity? It's very much like being inside the womb of your mother, like a baby in the womb of the mother. So they make the first impressions of divinity as statues of a mother. The statuettes we found as statuettes, a mother with a big belly like that, a big round belly. So you have the statuettes of the mother. And here, creation and divinity had a feminine quality. So in that level, or in that prehistoric early era, it was a normal thing that you had a matriarchal relationship with the universe. You were actually part of the Divine Mother. Now, when at that time, everything, and that's important when discussing the female energy, because it's striving towards the center, and because it is within the universal unity, is always producing ultimate balance and order. So the female energy is an energy that harmonizes the environment, that harmonizes things. So the birds, when they fly, when they have a certain formation and all that, it's this inner energetic thing that makes them fly like that as a coordination between their minds and the mind of the earth, become one, and they take this formation. So when those birds are flying, it's the earth guiding the flight of the birds.
Wow.
So because they are spokesmen of the earth. they cannot do anything wrong. They're living in divine harmony. So you could say that the female energy is linked to the concept of ultimate balance and divine harmony, besides the creative forces, because the mother is pregnant, begets the child, and so on.
Hey everybody, hope you're enjoying the episode. I'm sure you're interested in just being as healthy as you can possibly be, and holistically healthy at that. And I'm sure you know that the inside and the outside can't be separated. So what we put on the outside of our bodies, including light and sound and music and skincare, is just as important of what we're eating and drinking and thinking on the inside. That's why I'm so psyched I found this company, Seeb and Solus. Hannah, what are some of the things that people say when they first try your products?
They say it's deeply hydrating, even though it's a thinner type of dry oil, but it deeply penetrates to soothe and soften their skin. And they're very pleased with how long-lasting the moisturization is. Essentially, they love the fact that it's non-comedogenic, meaning it does not clog their pores. It actually very similar to our human skin oil, which is our sebum. And it can trick the skin into thinking that it has produced enough oil, and it balances its own oil production without promoting any acne or other skin problems.
All her products are really high in antioxidants. They're 100% vegan and organic. There's nothing synthetic in there. There's no artificial fragrances, no alcohol, no preservatives. They are produced with ethical standards and morals, and they take care of their people. In fact, they employ female workers who then go back and help feed and sustain their own family. They're truly holistic in that they're produced with love, transparency, and respect for Mother Nature. You can get them at a discount to try them on your own and see for yourself how great they work. And you can feel good about these products because I use them every day. Enter the code FitAmyTV10, all caps, at checkout, and you can save 10% on your order.
Now, as humanity progresses a bit, you have, they start making tools, they start, let's say, getting more into building things, hunting, all kinds of primitive tools in the beginning. Starting with primitive tools that slowly develop, they are actually building or pushing the focus of consciousness from the right brain towards the left brain. So now you get a sort of a balance where both of them work. Now, the right brain here is still, the focus of perception is still in the right brain. That's what we call ancient man in ancient civilization. The focus is still in the right brain. It's not yet in the left brain like we have today. So when the focus is in the right brain, it sees all the aspects of sensory perception as components. It looks at them from their qualitative side, which is components of the divine unity, representing the laws of nature. So when humanity started developing through the sensory perception, they develop numbers, they develop sound, they develop music, all the developments of the five senses actually in the beginning were not tools for the left brain. They were actually tools to navigate the energetic qualities of the right brain. So numbers here had a life of their own in the right brain. They were not quantitative things in the left brain. That came out later. Later, those energetic tools of the right brain that were components of the divine unity started being applied quantitatively in the world and practically. So in the beginning, you had the inner application, that was the secret temple sciences, and slowly emerging outer applications. That means that at that time, the concept of divinity is seen as an interaction of both sides of the brain. So that's the time when you had a dual divinity, where you had always male and female, like in ancient Egypt. You always had divinity was always dual. So it's a time where you have a balance between male and female. The balance between both meant, in cultures like ancient Egypt, meant the ultimate harmony and equality, because it's the perfect balance between both. So here you had the inner unity, the inner spiritual order being applied on the outer left brain daily life. And in ancient Egypt, they had the nature power, or what we call today erroneously called goddess, but it's a nature power called Mat. So Mat was represented by a feather. Feather here meant ultimate balance, ultimate equality. So through the female Mat, you had ultimate balance, and that was, let's say, applying the universal order to the community. This application of the universal order was helped by her consort, Thoth, or Tahuti, the god of wisdom, the god of knowledge. So here, the ultimate balance and equality was based on wisdom and knowledge. This is then the balance between both of them. And in this balance, the ancient Egyptian civilization reached its heights because it had this delicate balance. Now, we must look at each one of those periods of humanity. Let's say the primitive man being part of universal unity. That would be his different species. Humanity was a different species, like it was nearer to animals than us. So it was a different species. Now, when in ancient Egypt, this balance between both sides, but with focus on the right, focus on the intellect of the heart. That's where all the balancing values come out. That's what brings the perfect balance. But now, within this perfect balance, it means that the left brain consciousness, like it related numbers and sounds and all that to forces within the holistic right brain dimension, the left brain also, the left brain has, in order to perceive things, it must personify them. Because left brain must personify things. It must, so to see you, I have to separate you from myself. In the right brain, we are not separated. But in the left brain,
the left divides.
So how does it do it? By personification. It takes aspects from our cultural database, uses those aspects to personify the perception of energy that it perceives in the other dimension. So all the forces of nature were personified in the left brain. So they could actually see entities walking around. So all those reliefs and things, all the things that you would think these are extraterrestrials or something, no, these were the actual personification that the human mind of the ancients produced for the forces of nature. This had a very practical aspect because all of a sudden, this was done unconsciously. So all of a sudden they found themselves living in a world where all those forces of nature were entities like people living with them, interacting with them. So they could speak to all the laws of nature and all the forces of nature. And in the personification, they gave them the attributes, sometimes of certain animals that had the same functions or qualities like them. So they had the human bodies and then an additional attribute put from our minds. And you get all those different shapes that people think they're mythological creatures or from other planets or things. In reality, they are the forces of nature personified and living in the everyday life of the Egyptians. So whatever activity you did, your friends were with you in that activity.
Wow.
So imagine they must have been a totally different species than us, having this holistic view.
Wow.
Now, then comes, let's say, the total shift when the left brain starts getting more proficient at everyday activities. It pulls the focus of perception into the left brain.
Yeah.
When it pulls it out of the left brain, the intellect and the diversity of the left brain cannot perceive unity in diversity. It perceives the quantitative aspects and analytical aspects of diversity. So all of a sudden, it looks at the unity of the right brain and it cannot comprehend it. So it closes the door to the right brain. It cannot comprehend universal unity. So it's afraid of it. So closes the door. And so modern man has shut the perception of the left brain into the right brain. You can't today perceive the intellect of the heart for two reasons. Because your left brain lives in a linear time and space. It lives in our linear time and space. And time and space are sensory perceptions. I mean, the linear movement of time is a sensory perception. When you are living, so imagine that everything in creation is a pulse. From the smallest pulses in the beginning of creation to the largest pulses of the universe. Imagine the whole universe being one pulse and every little thing being a pulse. So all those pulses are actually pulsating in tune. The whole universe is one huge multi-level hierarchy of billions of pulses acting in unity, like acting as a symphony. So within each pulse is a dimension. Within the dimension of each pulse, you have the outward movement, you have a directional one. That's the mental one. So you perceive motion as linear, but you do not perceive the inner motion of time towards the center. So although linear time is bidirectional, you only perceive one direction, beginning to end. So you start creating a world where you have cause and effect. And cause and effect are only there because you have linear one-directional time. So you can have something before something. But if you are looking at it from a holistic point of view, a pulse, you couldn't say you don't have linear time in a pulse. You have a sort of circular time in a pulse, you know, out in, but you are within the pulse. And if you're within the pulse, you are moving in a linear time forward. So you start perceiving your whole existence as a movement forward in space and time. Well, this is only a perception because you're in that dimension. Now imagine moving to the right brain perception. Right brain perception is not trapped in linear time. It perceives the pulses of time. It has a holistic perception of nature. So how can you comprehend something that doesn't have your space-time configuration? And beyond your space-time boundaries, what do you have? If you have no boundaries of space, that means your perception on the right brain side or on the female holistic side, your perception is equally space-wise, could be individual, collective, or universal, because it's not bound by space. And it's not bound by time. That means it sees future and past. It sees them equally as an eternal present. So everything is in one big holistic universe that we can actually move within. So the right brain perception, you can move in forwards and backwards in time because to you it's an eternal presence. You can be individual, you can be universal. So it is a type of perception that cannot be translated into left brain linear perception. It's a totally different world, you know, where totally different time and space. But that is the world governing 98% of our being. It's this invisible world. For example, we have our perceived reality. And in our perceived reality, you have the sensory formed perceived reality. It's a sensory reality. Now, the senses only interact with about 2% of the frequencies of total vibration of the universe. So your sensory world is built with 2% of the information, of total information. So how can you assume to bring order and balance in a system if you only have 2% of its information? But then you can tell me, yes, but what do I care about the other 98%? I mean, I live in this dimension. That's my 2%. I can bring balance into that 2%. And that would be what I need. I don't need the other 98. Here, I tell you, the other 98 are a basic component in your reality. And so how can they be? Well, very simple. For your sensory perception to build your reality and to build your sensory soul that makes you Amy, it has to actually be alive. The brain has to be alive. That means you have to have blood pumped in your brain so that the senses start functioning. Okay, well, from where will the blood and life come into your brain to make it start functioning? That means that your actual sensory perception and your sensory soul are a secondary phenomenon and not a primary one. There's another one that comes before. Which is the other one that comes before? Well, it's actually the 98% of the laws of the universe, working to produce your biological functions. Your biological functions they are run by absolute reality, not by perceived reality.
Yeah.
So your biological functions, whether they're yours or the biological functions of other entities in other dimensions or in other universes and all that, they're all run by the invisible 98%. So, and thank God that they are run by the 98%. Otherwise, if we had access to them, we would mess them up. So, yeah. So if you understand that your whole being is a result of the 98% running your biological apparatus, pushing life force in the blood to your brain so that your sensory reality starts functioning, because otherwise there is no Amy. Amy is a sensory soul, because our mortal soul, our personality, is an immortal soul that is actually living in perceived reality. The other 98% is not bound by time and space. So it has an eternal presence. So it cannot be mortal because there's no time and space in it. It can move into different time-space dimensions. So there is an immortal soul in us, and there is immortal soul. Now,
Immortal what?
Immortal soul. The sensory soul is a mortal one. It dies.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one is immortal. It does not die. And it's immortal,
so
but at the
two
same
souls.
time, yes, but at the same time, it's multidimensional.
Okay. Wow.
And it's that other soul that is in the background, feeding. It can feed multiple sensory souls, multiple mortal souls. That's the concept behind reincarnation.
Oh, wow.
But reincarnation, you should not look at it as from here, one incarnation is before the other, and one is after the other. And you build your way of perceiving the incarnations as a way of evolution, and you keep reincarnating till you reach a certain spot, and then you go into the light. That is purely left brain thinking.
Wow. Yeah, because that's linear.
That's
right?
linear.
It's like progression.
So where's the reality? The reality is in your heart. All those incarnations are happening at the same time. And there is a cross interaction, and all of them are in continuous evolution together.
Wow, that's a concept. Wow.
And none of them reaches the immortal, the light at the end, because actually the one that reaches the immortal light at the end is the center, is that immortal soul of yours that's already living in that immortal light, in this light. So if you understand it that way.
Yeah, it's like Wizard of Oz, you had it all along. Home was right already here, you know. Wow.
Yes, so the other, when you say life after death, there's no life after death, there is life, the other life. This life is like a leaf flowing just along the ocean. The wind is pushing the leaf on the ocean. So you can have multiple leaves blown by the wind on the ocean, and they're moving on the ocean, but the ocean there, this is the real thing. It's the ocean down there. The leaf can flow a bit and then sink. So what? But the ocean is always there. And the leaves on the top of the ocean, they can be moving one before the other, you know, this leaf versus. But from the ocean point of view, they're all parts of that ocean. They're up there and they are pulled. In the depth of the ocean, there's no movement, like there are no waves, nothing, no wind, nothing. So there's no time and space down there. So we must rethink. The heart perceives all those things we speak about totally differently than our daily perception of them. So when we speak about death, life after death, when we speak about reincarnation, when you speak about all those things, you are speaking from the point of view of sensory perception.
Yeah.
That means you are speaking from the point of view of male energy.
Oh.
Now, from a point of view of female energy, the female energy is the energy of the immortal soul. And the male energy is the energy of the mortal soul. Not saying we're speaking about qualities, not that the male energy will die and the female energy will live. So no, we're speaking qualitatively. The difference between them in a qualitative point of view. Now let us look at our evolution of the male principle and interaction with the female principle. Now, the male principle will always seek an analysis and diversity. That means it will look into quantitative benefits of things. And if you do not have another perception governing it, putting this whole diversity within a universal unity, you cannot harmonize the diversity. The diversity has to be secondary to the universal unity that actually is the main thing that holds the whole universe. So we should imagine that the right brain perception, or the right brain perception here, you're connected to the universal mind. So you're connected to the primordial waters. This is the stage, the primordial stage that has female qualities, in which everything is imagined. So everything is imagined on this female qualitative scale stage, and everything is a mental imagination. That means the male aspect imagined on that female stage, like a baby born from a mother. So the whole male creation, or the male imagined creation, is actually in a cradle of female quality. It's no, things repeat itself. What happens to your baby in the womb happens to creation in the cradle. So it's all a hierarchy of things moving. So now, why is it important to acknowledge the female aspect within us? Because if we have reached a stage where the male aspect has been overactivated due to all the benefits of modern technology and our analytical mind and all that, so there's a huge activation of the left brain and the male energy. Of course, it has brought us this fantastic civilization, but at what cost? What happens when you neglect the female aspect here? We say the female aspect speaks to your perception, to your sensory perception, through core inner values. So if you go too much into left brain perception, you weaken the power of the inner values in your everyday actions.
Wow.
And this is where danger comes in.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you build a civilization. This goes fully seeking for material aspects and is not governed by the inner, because the female aspects are put aside. Now, automatically, when you think of female energy, you're thinking that we should empower the female, give her all what the male is doing, and give her all that. This is wrong, because why should I corrupt the female with all the problems of the male? Yes, because if male energy has lost its, let's say, communication with the inner values, it has lost its communication with the holistic oneness of the universe. So why would the female like to compete there? No, let's see now what has the female energy, what does it have to offer to save this civilization? Now, when I say male and female, these are qualities, like I said before, but they have a relationship, because a woman has to have this right brain energy and heart intellect functioning all the time, while the male only has the left brain perception functioning all the time, and he has to do certain exercises, things like that, to activate the right brain. So the male activates his right brain consciousness, but the female has both sides already activated, because from the time of primitive humanity, when the great mother of the whole universe was sort of holding creation in its arms, this concept has to continue even today, so that when a child is born, there must be some form of different consciousness imposed on the female that puts her beyond time and space, puts the multidimensional consciousness of seeing everything as an eternal present in her interaction with the baby. So before the baby has a problem or wakes up, the mother opens her eyes so she can see the problem irrelevant of time and space. So we need to have, let's say, this divine order, this divine feminine order has to have a full grasp on one of the species, which is the female in this case, in order to ensure the prolongation of life, in order to ensure the propagation of life, not just propagation and prolongation, both. So that's why the woman has 1 foot here and 1 foot there, while the male is totally in his left brain. But what happens with the left brain? Imagine the left brain being, it's the projector of reality. It's the projector of your perceived reality, this perceived through the left brain. If a projector keeps working for a long time, it could get hot. So you have to stop it, shut it down till it cools. So your waking consciousness is the same. Your brain works, your perceived reality after some time puts pressure on you, and you have to go to sleep to cool it off. So now, whenever you find that there is stress of any sort, I mean, taking this example, if there's stress of any sort on your system, you have an automatic shift to the right brain.
Oh.
Because the right brain is the holistic perception. So the right brain gives you, is your relaxation mode, because you're entering into divine harmony. So it's your relaxation mode. So for example, if you have too many problems, or you're too sad, you have too many things in your physical life, you tend to daydream. You tend just to, like, shutting off from the reality in front of you a bit. And this is a healing mechanism.
And get tired. You have no energy.
Yes. So you go to the right automatically. Or you do other things that replenish you. You put some music on. When you put music, you go into the right brain, and all of a sudden, the holistic presence replenishes you. So the male has to do it consciously, because he's too much into the left brain, that he has shut his right brain. So he has to go there consciously. He has to play sports, he has to listen to music, he has to read poetry and do things like that. The female is already there anyhow. So the female has this inner healing, is active all the time. And it's important to have the inner healing active all the time in the female body, because this inner feeling is, or this inner healing is important for the propagation of life, for the child and all that. And that is why when we analyze the body of the woman, let's say I analyze the womb where the child is during pregnancy. I analyze the water in there, and it is, the water in the womb is like the water in sacred power spots.
Wow.
It has what we in biogeometry call BG3. It has this spiritual light in it. So imagine the womb of the woman during pregnancy is like a sacred cave with sacred light and sacred water. So the child there is in the hand of divinity. It's immersed in that light. The woman, even if she does anything wrong, the child is still protected, because he is not in her hand anymore. He's in higher hands. So here, it shows you the connection of female energy to the higher divine dimensions. And the way of the male to the divine dimensions is through the female energy. So male energy, through prayer, you enter into female energy. And then from the female energy, you open the portal to the higher spiritual realms. So this is also, besides the main object of sex, of propagation of life, sex is actually a pilgrimage to the spiritual dimensions through the male visiting the spiritual cave of the woman, and together in that cave they reach the spiritual bliss. So if you understand it, once you know that, even, let's say, tomorrow you forget what I'm telling you. You forget about all this pilgrimage inside to spiritual power spots. And you and your partner just have sex for fun, for pleasure, not thinking of anything. We just want to have fun. Now, you think, have fun, but embedded in your subconscious is that spiritual journey is already embedded.
Wow.
Because now you know it. So even if you forget it, it is still in the memory of the heart. So you find yourself looking at sex, which is one of the most important things in our lives, looking at it as the ultimate spiritual journey of the female, of the male through the female doorway that takes him to the spiritual dimensions. Because the female is the doorway into the holistic, let's say, perception of the universe. And through the holistic perception of the universe, you reach the oneness, which is the center, which is the spiritual journey. So now, if we look at it that way, the female energy and the male energy are properly balanced in the life force. Because now you're looking where is female energy, where is male energy? They are part of the background energy. They are there in your room, they're outside, they're everywhere. You are actually imagined within them. They are the real thing. You are just a temporary emanation inside this life force. So don't look for life in other planets and all that, because all the universes are actually based in life force. Life force is those little pulses. They are the background of the universe. So everything is born within life force. So I always say that we deny life force. We say, for example, that what we have out in outer space is a void, things like that. There's no void there. There's the background of everything is life force. It's a living being, mental, emotional, creative force that is out there. And it is so potent that you're not even aware of it, like a fish living in the ocean and is starting to think, is there something called water? How can I invent water? And things like that while it's in the ocean. Mm-hmm. If you see, I pronounce water, I always stress on the T, you know. I say water because in the energetic effect of words, the U is spiritual origin. Mm-hmm. Ta in ancient Egyptian means earth. R means power, motion.
Means motion?
Motion. So there's a spiritual aspect. That means when I speak water, yeah, I'm always referring to the sacred water that flows in the rocks of the earth.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm glad you pointed that out. I love
it.
So
it's W-T-R. That's, and
yeah, because they didn't have vowels back then, right?
No, they didn't have vowels back then. Mm-hmm. So when I study the energy and the resonance and all that, I have to stress that T is earth, because the sacred waters are running in streams in the rocky strata of the earth. You'll find that in one of the chapters of the book when I speak about sacred waters. Mm-hmm. So now, when we are looking at this background energy, now, if I ask you a question, what is the energy that runs most of the motion on Earth? What would you think? Nuclear, electric, wind, sun? What would it be?
Well, like the ether?
Well, one, look at the motion we know.
Okay.
Okay. But look, besides the motion that we create as humanity, look at the natural motions. Look at all the birds flying. all the animals running, all the things growing, that is motion.
Yep.
It's fueled by energy.
Yep.
So the energy that runs 90% of the motion, not only in the earth, the planets are moving, that's motion, everything is motion, is actually life force.
Yep.
Life force has a tremendous, tremendous amount of energy that it would put nuclear energy to shame. But it's beneficent energy.
And harmonious.
Imagine having an energy that is millions of times stronger than nuclear energy, but its effects are beneficent. That is the life force of the earth. Because, for example, electricity in the earth and electromagnetism of the earth are part of life force. Life force contains everything. But as they are part of life force, they are part of our living system. We can't live without natural electricity and magnetism of the earth. We are part of it, we're connected to it. But when we try to take it and manipulate it and make electricity and magnetism, we kill its life force, and then it becomes very harmful. You have EMF that's very harmful.
We're killing the life force because it's not in balance. Like, why would we be killing
because
it?
Nature produces it properly with life force. You produce it without life force because you have no notion what life force is.
Right. Like we produce everything without life force except for BG
So imagine, look, a bird builds its nest out of dead branches and leaves. They're dead branches and leaves. But it builds through shape. The result is a living nest. That means the nest pulls in life force.
Cool.
It gives them to the chick, it gives them to the bird. Now, because why? Because they are run, the birds are run by the universal mind. Now, when we start building our buildings and things like that, we're putting dead material in a living body of the earth. So it's like putting tumors everywhere in the earth, dead material in a living body, dead material in a living body. One day, the living body will either throw us off, or before, we must not think that we will destroy nature or destroy the earth. This is a wrong way of thinking, because you are so small and the earth is so big. Imagine we are like, imagine bacteria on the top of your hand here. In a square inch of skin, you have maybe millions of bacteria. Those bacteria, it's like a nation, a civilization. Each one has a function. You have workers, you have planners, it's a whole community taking care of your skin, of all the functions of the skin. Now, if this community decides not to do its job, spend its time texting or on the internet or doing this and
watching
that,
Netflix,
watching Netflix, getting drunk, taking drugs and things like that, you will feel that something is wrong with your skin. You will just, scratch. Once you scratch, you've killed millions of those bacteria. So what makes you think that the earth will not scratch one day and take this nuisance called humanity off the skin?
It won't be the first time.
It won't be the first time. And so if we are arrogant enough to think that one day we will destroy the earth, we will be surprised. You cannot destroy the earth.
Well, we're really talking about ourselves,
you're really talking about destroying humanity. You never destroy the earth. And so, if we should bring female values into everything we do. Now, how do we do that? That means bringing life force, because female values are part of life force. And remember, life force is where the universal mind is. So actually every thought, every emotion, anything you think of, every intuition is in direct communication with the surrounding life force. You are speaking all the, you know, when you speak to me, you're speaking to the life force at the same, you speak to both of us, me and the life force. When I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to you and the life force.
Oh
so
boy,
it is
I better watch what I say.
It watches everything you do and everything you say, but you know, it is the companion that can work to your benefit too. So now the bird manages to build its nest with life force. It replenishes life force of the bird while you build the house, and we are depleted of life force in our houses. See the difference of wisdom here? The bird has right brain wisdom. The bird has female wisdom, and we have the male concept that has gone astray and is depleting us from life force. If we go to ancient civilizations, they didn't do a single thing without impregnating it with life force. First thing, they built all their important monuments on sacred power spots, because the sacred power spots were vortices of life force and communication with higher dimensions. They communicated the earth to higher dimensions. So they built all the important things there. When they planned their cities, they planned it in function of communicating pathways between the sacred power spots. So ancient civilizations were actually planning their life based on life force. We somehow along the line forgot the importance of life force. And it's automatic with the male aspect increasing and closing the door to the female, you're automatically closing the door to the perception and wisdom of life force. See, now, when I say that, I'm not speaking male and female here as a gender. I'm speaking, it is two forces in nature running within all of us. Those two, so we should nourish them. So when we want to create a matriarchal balance in the society, a female-male balance in the society, well, there are two ways. Empowering the female in order to have the vision of wisdom on any society, but at the same time, activating the female within the male. One of the ways of empowering female is not empowering woman, it's empowering female energy. That means empowering it in the woman and empowering it in the man. Because if you don't empower it in the man, it will not communicate with the empowered one in the woman. So this empowerment means, so I'm going to reduce all that now to a very simple plan of action. Now, what is the goal of all existing paths of knowledge, spiritual paths, belief systems? Do they all have something in common? Yes. They all have in common that action, in order to be in perfect balance, has to include the wisdom of the 98%. That means life brain perception has to include the heart in your action. So You say you put your heart in your action. When you put your heart in your action, what happens to your action? An automatic balance.
More power too.
Okay, this automatic balance, I use the word excellence for it. Excellence is when you bring the divine wisdom through the female empowerment to balance your left brain actions. And all beliefs in all systems are actually based on excellence. Because if you believe, if you have a religion, a belief or whatever, and the belief is in your head, if the belief does not come out into action, then it's not a belief. It's an illusion inside you. Your belief has to be activated. So any belief has to be activated into action. And if it's activated into action, the result is excellence. So the essence of any belief in any period of history is excellence. It's the activation of the inner values in the outer actions. And that is activated belief. Because if belief is not activated, then it's useless. It's just inside you. If it's not activated through your values, that means bringing your conscience into your work. It's very simple. Bringing your conscience into your work, you get excellence. Because your values, your inner values, they're connected to the spiritual level that brings balance into your actions. And we have excellence. So people who speak a lot about belief, and this belief is not, let's say, manifested in excellence in their action, then the belief is not, doesn't mean anything. It's words. I mean, the beliefs of most people now are just words. Everybody's speaking about his beliefs, everybody's speaking and fighting about their beliefs and fighting about all things. You have so many factions fighting about their beliefs when each one should actually activate his belief to produce excellence of action. So at the end, excellence of action is the common factor between all beliefs of humanity. The day you achieve excellence of action, you become as wise as the animals and the birds.
So it's achievable.
The animals and the birds achieve excellence through unconscious divine wisdom.
No, I mean for humans, it's achievable for us as well.
Yeah, because the difference is the bird achieves it unconsciously. The human has to achieve it consciously. But the human knows the mechanism. I mean, very simple, bring your inner values into excellence, you become like the bird.
Okay, question on this to clarify. You're saying how we bring the feminine values into humanity and achieve excellence of action is by bringing the feminine values into our actions, is what I'm hearing you say. But can you clarify for the feminine values, are we talking about for the individual feminine values, what they regard to their person as what's a feminine value to me might be different than a feminine value to someone else? So are they kind of the universal law feminine values you're referring to? Because, I guess what I'm saying is not all people have the same values.
No, you see, there's one thing.
Okay.
There's nothing called female values.
Okay.
It's just values.
Values. Okay.
And values are in the conscience of every human being. That's the intellect of the heart.
Okay.
You know, if you listen to your heart will always discern right from wrong. So you do not have to go into any belief system to ask about, is my action right or wrong according to the system? No, you can go into any system and ask about, intellectual aspects of that system, people who have studied more than you have. You can ask them about details of whatever system, whatever beliefs, they can tell you about them. But never go to ask them, is this right or is this wrong, or shall I do this or shall I do that? Here your heart knows better. In your heart you have a direct connection to the laws. So why ask somebody else when you know? I mean, you know, I always tell people, when you want to do something and you go and ask somebody, is because you know it's wrong and you want a way out. Yeah, you want the person to give you a way out. So
that's,
you know,
probably true.
Yeah, something like that. But so
wow. Well, that reminds me of the term Shante Esta. Am I saying that right? Eshta, the single eye of the heart. There's a term.
Single eye.
Yeah, there's a term for it. The Shante Esta,
I don't know.
the single eye of the heart. It's about how your heart knows what's best for you. Period.
Yes,
and it's a place of no judgment.
That's it.
But it has discernment. It has discernment, not judgment.
The heart sees things holistically. So when you ask a question to the heart, it looks at it in function of the whole creation. Because when you do an action here, let's say you move your hand, through resonance, it will affect all other dimensions of creation. If you think a thought will enter into resonance with all dimensions of creation.
That's amazing.
Yeah, everything is interactive.
What a concept. I mean, like, talk about taking responsibility for the energy that you're contributing to the world. You know?
Okay, well, which part of you is aware of what happens in all of creation? It's the intellect of the heart, because the heart sees the whole creation. Now, when you do something with your mind, you see its effect here. And then I tell you, but you know, it can have an effect multidimensional, all that is left brain explanation. But inside, something inside you will tell you, I'm okay with it, I'm not okay with it, this is the right thing, this is, because something inside you will see its effect to the furthest places in the universe. And your heart knows it, because the perception of the heart is holistic. So you see how you affect everything. And now to tell you an important aspect in this, your relationship with the universe. You know, in biogeometry, we have what we call the material balancing wheel. And it's a very simple physics. When you take a sample of any material, the sample has the information of the whole material. So we use it in the houses. I'm sure you studied that. I used in the house, if I change the quality of energy of the sample, the energy of the whole material will change. Like we do that in the house. If you have, for example, some marble or granite and tabletop or something, and you discover with the Geiger counter that it is radioactive. Now, we can actually take a very, like a grain of sand from this material in the energy balancing wheel, put it until we completely harmonize it with spiritual light. All of a sudden, you find the marble tabletop, instead of radiating radioactivity, it radiates this divine light. Now, if you come with a Geiger counter, the radioactivity is still there, but your body does not perceive it. We've done many experiments in biogeometry in different things with mice, with things like that, where we've protected them 100% from radioactivity. I mean, weak levels, not an atom bomb on your head. So now we use the same thing, this principle, on ourselves. So I am a sample of all humans.
Life, yeah, all of life. Mm-hmm.
But not all humans on Earth, but all human-like creatures on all other dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, we know the energy of shape. That means shapes can actually enter into energy with other shapes. So you have archetypal shapes for the human body. So if there are humans or human-like species living in another planet, in another dimension, even if it's not a material one, through resonance with the archetypal shape, they will have the archetypal shape of the human body. But then you say, will they look exactly like us? No. They have the archetypal constitution, the energetic shape of our body, but their material bodies will be affected by their environments. So they will not, they'll be in a way similar to us, but sculpted by their own environment. Let's say weak gravity, you will have giants, strong gravity, you'll have small people like that, but the archetypal energetic constitution will be the same. And every species will find its counterpart everywhere. So the life and all species exist everywhere in the universe. We're not the only place here. What we are looking for is physical life. When you're looking for life on other planets, we spend billions to look for physical life. That's what we look for. You want somebody material like this. But in reality, how long will you be dwelling in this physical life of yours? Nothing. So how important is physical life on another planet? You could have dimensions of life, like your immortal souls. You can have other dimensions of life on other planets, not necessarily physical.
You see, that's such an important thing, because, like, you know, Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and all these people, you know, trying to create rocket ships to get to the moon and other planets. And, you know, there's such an interesting point, Dr. Karim, about looking for material, physical life, whereas the ancients, in the ancient Egyptians, their whole physical short life was, if I'm not mistaken, the purpose was to prepare them for the next life, to connect with the next life. Everything here now was in unison with all that is, all the more, rather than, you know, looking for more of the same, is what I'm saying.
Yes, you see, if you are...
And trying to preserve the material.
You see, your soul is not physical. Your material body is physical. Yeah. That means the atoms of your material body are electromagnetic particles, meaning they are it's a dimension within the speed of light. And it follows a certain linear time. But your soul, your emotional and mental levels can be much higher than the speed of light, because they are not bound, they are not electromagnetic, they are more like non-electromagnetic compression waves, but going in multidimensional directions.
They're not bound by the same physical laws.
No, they're not bound, and they are not even bound to appear in one dimension. So you can have, like when I say the pulse can have a reality in multiple dimensions at the same time, or jumping from one dimension to the other. Wow. So when there is a higher level of you once you leave this body. This higher level is purely emotional, mental energy, okay? But we know that, in other words, this emotional, mental energy, the afterlife, what you call the afterlife or the other life, will be a material life like this one. Now, how will it be a material life? Yes, it will be solid life, but the particles in it will be emotional, mental particles. Oh. And they will form the same life like here. The same energy archetypes will produce sceneries, trees, fruits, and everything made of emotional, mental particles, not electromagnetic particles like here. Anyhow, when you're sitting on that chair or the table in front of you, can you tell if it's made from emotional, mental particle or electromagnetic particle? You don't even know that there are atoms moving in there, you see. Okay, same thing. If all of a sudden now we close our eyes here and wake up in another dimension, you will find the dimension is solid, it's a material dimension. But the material dimension is made of emotional, mental particles. But it's very material, because you will also be made of emotional, mental particles.
Wow.
So, but these dimensions, which are billion times more than our physical dimension, because our physical dimension is only at the speed of light. But from the speed of light all the way up to zero and infinity, all those myriads of frequencies, you will have dimensions of emotional, mental worlds, and they will be just as solid as this one. Now, because they're emotional, mental, our senses will not grasp them. So we think that they're not there, and they will not grasp us. But we are 2% and they're 98%.
My father, Mark Newkirk, used to say that if you could turn off all human thought, the default would be harmony. Within each one of us, at our core, is true perfection. Old programs, limiting ideas about ourselves, and stress cause us to see a different picture. If we can get back to a more natural state of being and begin to see how amazing the Creator has made us, we can see more of our own perfection, heal, and release old programs that do not serve us. Coherent music, nature, and technologies like the core harmonizer that use frequencies of music, light, and sacred geometries can help bring us back to our peaceful selves. When we are in a greater state of peace, we can then begin to access more of our own amazing innate abilities. Abilities like self-healing capabilities, perceptive capabilities, and intuitive capabilities, and even more.
Everybody, that was my friend Ross Newkirk. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? This is why his products are on my website. I think it speaks for itself. I know you can feel his level of consciousness. That's the mindset and intention behind the creation of these products. That's what makes them unique. I know if you listen back to what you just heard, you will feel what I'm talking about. And that's why intention of creation is so important. So I'm so grateful that Ross has shared his technology with us at a discount. You can get yours at my website under the recommended products page. Enter the code FitAmyTV10, save 10%. This is the kind of present to tell people to get you, something that's going to change your life, elevate your consciousness, raise your vibration, and increase your energy, your calmness, your peace of mind, decrease stress. I mean, who in the world doesn't need a core harmonizer, right? Thanks, Ross and his team. Go get yours today and let us know what you think.
I think we've reached
Yes, there's,
the end
I mean,
of
this.
our first session together.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, this is just like, my goodness, I have so much more to study now for my next my next discussion with you. But this has been an unexpectedly deep. I just love how you started us with the beginning, the evolution, and to give us that good foundation to really have us meditate and wrap our brains around the origins of the energy, and the feminine energy in particular.
Because once you know the energy, it's a coiling, attractive energy.
Yeah.
And it's a very important part of the huge energetic activity of the subtle energetic background. Then you know the role of female energy. We're all bathing in it. Well,
I'm so grateful you're going to come back for part 2 with all the other questions I have about all these amazing things. Thank you. But before we close out and just let you go, could you just, and hopefully this isn't too deep of an answer for you to have to give, but I just have to ask, because you mentioned how the female of the species is given that particular special ability, quality, whatever you want to call it, of that connection with the newborn in order to preserve life. Why would the divine, the creator, whatever it is, the unity, only provide that in one of the species? Would you be able to answer that? Like, why would that happen? I mean, why not make both of them and be more convenient?
No, because you need one to be, let's say, highly efficient in the sensory perceived reality. So you give one let's say, the task of really taking care of the sensory reality, while you give the other the empowerment, the inner empowerment of that sensory reality. So everyone has his role in there.
Aha. Okay. I'm glad that wasn't like, oh boy, I need another hour for this answer.
No,
All right.
no.
I just had to ask that. That's wonderful. I love it. Well, a big part of the show is about helping women like me to get back more into their Aphrodite, into that feminine, because we've been over masculinized. Not that, and again, like you, it's not, masculine is not a bad thing. We all need it. We need both. And when we're only living in one is when we have problems. And that's kind of what I've learned in my life, of trying to get back online, that feminine, to bring that harmony.
But there's one thing you should know, and we as men should know, that the carrier of a sacred cave is considered a highly sacred being. So we should always look at the female with sacredness. You see, we should take care, because that's our sacred cave. So we should protect it. We should protect the female. We should put her on a pedestal. We shouldn't come in a materialistic world where we think of the female as competition. Right. No, we want the female to be the backbone. So it's a way of looking of how the male should nurture the female. And if the male acknowledges, the more the male acknowledges the right brain or the heart brain intellect, the more healthy he becomes, because all the healing energy in the body comes from the female part. So it's going to benefit the male to do this. Well, you see, we said the laws of nature come in the 98% that are perceived by the heart. So through connection to the heart or to the right brain energy, you access the healing energies that will actually transform your life and your emotions and your thoughts. So it's a win-win situation here. Wow, indeed. So for the males to promote that
not only in themselves, but in their relationships with actual physical women to, you know, support that in her as well.
I mean, why should a male be brought up fearing female competition? Completely absurd. I mean, so they should be complementary and no competition in their felt. But in a materialistic world, you know, you're afraid of your dollars. You somehow, you don't want competition from anything, even from an animal or a bird, you know.
Right.
Yes, and this is the problem of a materialistic society. The materialistic society, it makes everybody look at himself, and it's and forget that he has a mother, you know.
Yeah, and it's scarcity fear-based too, like, you know, there's not enough to go around type feeling, you know.
Yes, but if he felt that the female energy, that the communication with the female enhances your health and longevity, if you understand that, so the interaction with the female in a very positive way is better than buying multivitamins.
I agree. I love it. And you know, what you're making me think of too is that for, again, it's like for the females, it's like for us to kind of, I don't want to say justify, but feel good about nurturing that within ourselves. You know, to have our inner masculine not override that part of ourselves. Like we need to give that to ourselves. You know, that's kind of what I'm.
Once you understand your value,
yeah,
and understand how you're really connected, and how you are on a ladder to divinity, you are between the male and divinity. You are the pathway.
Yeah.
Once you understand that, you start appreciating yourself.
Wow, so true.
And then
you don't give it away, girls. That's for sure.
Yes. So appreciate what you are. And you are greater. Nature has made you greater. Nature had brought you closer to the center, because we know, we said emotional energy, the female is striving towards the center. So for the male to connect to the center, he has to jump on the female direction. Otherwise, he'll never reach that spiritual center. Wow. So once you know you are a spiritual being and have an important role in this earth in harmonizing everything through your interactions, just bring what you feel out in every action you do, and you will change the world.
I love that, and I that's probably why, you know, the mystery schools and the ancients, they knew about the power of the sexual union as a path to divinity, as you're saying. And then, unfortunately, while, you know, certain cultures and societies would, you know, suppress and subjugate the females because they knew the power, and the whole witch burning and all that, the power of the feminine was suppressed and started the whole.
That's a late period. If you go back to the great ancient civilizations like ancient Egypt, you had the succession of the throne based on the female. You had the female and the male were two parts of one great thing, you see. So that's what built those ancient civilizations that we come to understand today. That's what made the male and female live along all the forces of nature as entities living among them. That's the greatness comes from there. Now, is it all lost when we move into the left brain consciousness? I call that the great shift, like it brings a cataclysm. Is it all lost? No, it's not lost, because we have the way to acknowledge the left brain. The left brain acknowledges the right brain. I mean, we have we know that it's very simple. I play some sports harmoniously, I'm into right brain. I listen to music, I'm into right brain. So if I acknowledge that by doing all those things, I am synchronizing with the female qualities of the universe, then by every good action to any female, I am also brought nearer to this spiritual synchronicity.
Divinity.
So every good deed I do with a female, every respect, everything I do here is like a form of prayer.
Oh, wow.
Just every good deed, if I help you carry one thing, if I do this, everything, every good deed or every good action to a female, every respect I give to a female, every help I raise the female. When I'm in a workplace, instead of thinking the female as competition, I raise her on a pedestal and not try to put her down so that I take more salary or things like that. So with every action towards the female, the male will actually become healthier, more serene, happier, because the connection will be achieved. And it's easy to achieve the connection through the female friends. I mean, the more female friends a man has, the more he benefits from this holistic energy. So it's doable that we can, in the future, create a new level of humanity that actually looks back and brings both aspects, the heart and the left brain, into a new form of synchronicity that will lead us to similar great ancient civilizations. Because the ancient civilizations are not, you should not look at ancient civilizations in their material achievements. Unfortunately, that's what we do. Yeah. No, ancient civilizations, look at them in the perception of humanity in that civilization. How did this species react with nature? The respect they had for nature. When the ancient Egyptians mummified every animal, they mummified their cats, mummified their dogs with them. They put them in tombs and they put gold around them and all that. They mummified the cattle, they mummified the bulls. How can a civilization treat every animal the way you treat a human being and put him with you in the cemetery, in the graves? And there are special cemeteries where you have huge sarcophagus, especially for the bulls, another one for the cats. So, because to them, it was all this holistic, it's their attitude towards everything being part of one holistic thing in nature. It's this attitude that changes humanity. The greatness of ancient civilizations was in their attitude towards everything. And maybe you can bring this attitude back.
Wow. It's the attitude that changes humanity.
It is that one, yes.
Right on. Yes, yes, yes. Well,
and
that's
this attitude, yes, this attitude makes you accept all others. Because all other is sacred.
And just what I'm hearing you say too is just really being responsible for, like you said, every thought, every emotion. Like I just move my arm like this and there's going to be a pulse, a ripple effect in all of the body of the earth and all of the existence. Like, so.
Think of the harmony of your motion. So
yeah,
even look at how your body moves, how you move your arm, because you are responsible with every motion in what you're creating in all other dimensions. So do everything with harmony.
Excellence of action.
Excellence of action, even in your motions.
You know, I have that on a sticky note on my fridge. Thanks to you. But and that's fun. I'm so glad because that was actually one of the questions, because you mentioned that excellence of action is the way to the feminine values, and I wanted clarification, and you addressed that today naturally. So we don't have to address that next time, but
Okay, we'll find something else.
Oh, we sure will. Don't worry. I have you don't
I
see
have the big book.
all my oh my God, all my notes of questions and everything. And I didn't have a chance to show you my art. Let me just quickly show you this one. I did this art.
The angelic one, yeah.
Yes. And it's high in BG3.
Yeah, of course, this is the connection, resonance with the angelic world.
I love it. And people love this one too. And,
Yeah.
and like I said in the intro to everybody and anybody that sees my social media, I'm a biogeometry liver. Like, it's part of who I am now. I have it all over my house, everywhere. And people love coming to visit me. They love, even my cleaning lady loves to, she's here for hours and hours and hours. I have a very small place. I'm like, you're still here. She's like, I love it here. It's such good energy. And I know for sure, I got the cube. I mean, I got my art. I mean, this is one I'm working on now. I'll show you. It's not done yet. There's one more piece, but I'm doing really into biosignatures right now.
Yes. They're nice. Yes, I see it. Yeah.
It's got the infinity. That's the right heart. That's the heart. That's the heart rhythm. And I'm gonna do one more right here. I don't know. Of course, I got my L90s, but I'm gonna do one more right here. I don't know what quite it should be yet. Would you have?
We'll measure and find out. Yeah.
Measure and find out. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Okay. So anyway, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Amy, for inviting me.
Oh my gosh, I already can't wait to have you back. And everybody, you know what to do. Check out the show notes. Check out BioGeometry. You can also use my code, Amy Fournier, all caps, which is my name, for discount on any of the products. And you'll be hearing a lot more about this. And thank you again, Dr. Karim, for being on Awakening Aphrodite.
Well, thank you. And I hope to see you soon again.
You sure will. Okay, everybody, you know what to do. If you enjoyed the show, share it, send it to a friend. And wow, if you want to leave a review, that would be amazing. And we'll see you next time.
Hello to everybody. And I'm glad that you are all listening.
We sure are too. But you know what? Even if it was just you and me, I had a heck of a time.
Yeah, we enjoyed it.
I'm thrilled to share it with the world, though, because obviously, as everyone heard, this, I mean, what's more important than what you just shared with us? I mean, this is the whole ticket, everybody. Okay, thank you again, and we'll see you next time, everybody.
Would you like to support my mission to help empower people all over the world to be all of who they truly are? If so, please subscribe to the show, leave a review on iTunes, and share it with a friend. And if you're looking to take immediate action to align your energy and optimize your health, visit amyfournier.com. Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite. Let's awaken her together in you. I'm your hostess, Amy Fournier, and I already can't wait to be with you again and for you to hear what I have planned for the next show.
Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. To learn more about Amy, check out her website, amyfournier.com. That's AMYFOURNIER.com. You can also check out Amy's live and on-demand virtual fitness and yoga classes, and sign up for her newsletter to receive a free mini ebook of 3 of her top tips for making holistic health a lifestyle. Again, that's amyfournier.com, and get your ebook sent to your email immediately. Connect with Amy on the daily on Instagram at FitAmyTV, FITAMYTV, and watch many of the podcast episodes and subtopic clips on her YouTube channel, which is also FitAmyTV. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.